What's up, everybody? It's Catfish and Ice. It's episode 261 with Chad Minton and Max Greenberg. Happy to see everybody. Happy to have you along for the ride. Max, we made it to the Four Nations face-off break, and let me just tell you right now, I need this break. I need it in the worst way. Yeah. I'm sure the Nashville Predators need it as well. It's been a really, really taxing season on all of us. Needless to say,
especially me, because I have the Titans as well.
Well, I do too. I'm right there with you.
True,
but you write about both teams,
right?
So,
right.
But it's good to make it to the break. At least they do get a win. We got some fun topics. We're gonna get a little silly tonight in Catfish and Ice. We are presented by DraftKings, promo code THBN. We're gonna mix in a little Super Bowl talk because the Super Bowl did happen last night, even though it was a snooze fest for the most part. Other than the things that had nothing to do with the game.
Right.
That stuff was entertaining. Taylor Swift getting booed. The halftime show was interesting. The commercials were pretty good. They were better. But overall, the game itself was kind of a snooze fest. But I am very happy with the Philadelphia Eagles winning. I am a Philly-born native, even though I am from Nashville.
I did not know that, Chad.
Some of you might not know that. I was born in Philly. My whole mom's side of the family is from Philly. Did not grow up there. Grew up in Tennessee, but it's still my home. I'm not an Eagles fan by any means, but I was pulling for them over the Chiefs, which I feel like a large chunk of people were for different reasons. But I was hoping to see a better game, though, at least, Max.
Right.
But, it's okay. But we've got some fun topics to get into tonight, for sure. A lot of stuff we're going to get into is going to be a lot of fun, entertaining. We are going to first, our opening face-off is going to be me and Max are going to try to predict. We're going to do our best to predict what the Preds starting lineup is going to look like post-trade deadline. So I'm thinking that first game after March 7th, which I believe is when the trade deadline is.
That is.
I actually think some sell-offs are going to happen before the trade deadline. In fact, Elliot Friedman.
Yeah, I saw this too.
Dropped an interesting nugget today saying that he's hearing that there's going to be chatter but is there a trade free? I guess there's not a roster freeze.
I was wondering the same thing. I don't think there is.
Well, if Elliot Friedman speaks it, then that means it's true. So I guess things could happen, but also I probably got to do some more digging on that. Just because teams are talking doesn't mean they're going to actually pull the moves off just yet. I wouldn't expect a lot of trades to happen during the tournament necessarily. Oh, yeah. But things could happen before teams return for their first game back.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about a player like Gus Nyquist. Has Gus Nyquist played his last game in a Predators uniform? Who knows?
Very likely. I mean, they vary, but it's possible.
I mean, the first game back for the Predators is February 22nd. So, I mean, you've got about 2 weeks after the break. And you look at a team like the Predators, I mean, they pretty much know their place now. There is nothing about the imagination anymore about, could this team make the playoffs? No, it's over. It's dead.
Yeah.
0.3% chance according to Money Puck.
Yeah, it's done.
Yeah. So anyway, we're going to try to predict what we think the starting lineup's going to look like. Of course, we'll probably be wrong, but that's what makes it fun.
Absolutely.
We are going to get really silly, and we're going to go back to an early topic of the podcast that, like, I want to say it was in the first 10 episodes of this podcast years ago. Me and Rich, we went through all of the NHL mascots and talked about them in terms of just the ones we liked, the ones we didn't like. We're going to spin it a little differently tonight. We're going to come back to it because NHL mascots are they're just a fun topic.
Right.
And there's some good ones out there. There's some freaky ones out there. There's some creepy ones for sure. Of course, we love Gnash, but we are going to. I made a tier list of mascots that I think are like could win in a battle royale, basically. Like who would be formidable in a gladiator style? We're thinking like gladiator style in the Coliseum. Who would win? I don't know what made me think of this. I really don't. I just throughout the week when I'm trying to build an episode, I just come up with the weirdest topics, and some of them never make it. This one, I decided let's run with it and let's see where it takes us. So we'll do that. I want to look again at the teams without a Stanley Cup and which teams are the closest to winning their first Stanley Cup. The Preds are probably they were going into the season. They were probably at the top of that list.
They're going in the wrong direction.
They've gone the absolute worst direction. But there are some teams out there who don't have a Stanley Cup yet, who I feel like have a good chance of winning their first this year. Of course, the Florida Panthers were their most recent team to win their first Stanley Cup. So they're off the list. But we got some teams. We'll put it on the screen, and we'll talk about it. Also, I'm going to ask a couple questions. One is, and this could be a quick topic, but we can dive into. We can look at the stats for the team this year, but it really tells you why the Preds are where they're at. Is there one player on this team that is outplaying their career averages?
Not anyone that had expectations,
especially on offense.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no, I don't think there's one player like. I'd look at the whole lineup. Maybe there's like some guys in the bottom. I don't know. But no guy who's actually a difference maker is having a year above.
They're all underperforming on their career averages at the same time, which is kind of wild when you think about it, because last year and even the year before that, you had a bunch of scenarios where guys were completely outperforming their career averages. So we went from one end of the spectrum to another. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's crazy when you watch it. I mean, of course, Philip Forsberg's still having a strong year. Marchessault has bounced back and is having a pretty good year after a really bad start. But for the most part, all of these guys are either right at their average or they're way below their career average. And it makes you really wonder, did Barry Trotz really screw up? He's in the doghouse right now with a lot of fans.
Yes.
It's him and Andrew Burnett are a peas in a pod. They're both taking equal punishment from the fan base right now, and it's ugly. It is ugly out there. And then finally, more about the trade deadline. We are going to talk about some teams who are going to be most interesting to watch at the trade deadline, whether that means they're going to be buyers or sellers. We know the Preds will be in there. They'll be interesting to watch around the league, but I don't think they're going to be one of the most interesting teams. For one, even though they're going to be sellers most likely, they don't have a lot of really big-time players to offer anybody. That's one of the conundrums we find ourselves in. They're sellers, but they don't have any guys that are really popping off this year. So it's going to be really hard to sell off some of these assets. So they might not be that interesting to fans outside the Predators, but there are some teams out there, one in particular that I'm really going to be watching closely to see what they do at the deadline. But we'll do that topic, and that will get us through it, Max.
Yeah.
So with that said, let's get right into it with our opening face-off, and that is trying to predict the Preds starting lineup. I'm going to put mine on the screen, but before I do that, I'm going to build some suspense for everybody. I'm going to let Max start first with his prediction. And again, this is us trying to predict. We're basically trying to figure out who's not going to be here anymore, who's about to get traded. We've already talked a lot about that. You already know some of the players that me and Max both think are probably highly likely of being traded in the next few weeks. So you kind of see where we're going with this. Go listen to the previous episodes. You'll get an idea. But Max, how about you start off first by trying to predict what the top two forward lines will look like after the trade?
Well, I'm going to first start because so I'm going to preface what I'm going to say by saying this. A lot of my predictions that I'm going to make here, I mean, they're stuff I hope is going to happen. Will it probably all happen? I'm sure it won't. But this is me partially living in a fantasy world, hoping what I want to see happen. But I'm going to give my predictions here. I'm going to first start with players I'm going to first start by saying the players I think are going to be gone. And yes, I'm going to elaborate on Johnny's comment right here. Johnny was talking about right there how I met him in person 1 year ago today at the Preds Coyotes game. So happy anniversary there,
really
Johnny.
Cool.
We
awesome.
love you watching the show.
Friends anniversary. Awesome.
Absolutely. But yeah, no, I'm gonna so yeah, players that I think are gonna be out. Jeremy Lauzon, I think, is gonna be out. Gus Nyquist, Colton Sissons, Luke Shen, I ultimately think is going to happen, as crazy as it sounds. So about that, I've actually done a lot of that Puck GM thing on Puckpedia. A lot of people seem to want Luke Shen.
I mean, Hey, the guy knows how to block a shot. I'll tell you that. Hey,
Yeah.
that game against Buffalo, the guy dished out 11 hits, and he blocked a really big shot early in the game.
Yeah.
But he also turned the puck over so much. I mean, the guy is a traffic cone when it comes to getting out of the defensive zone. But I mean, the whole team's turning the puck over right now. It's not just him. So I don't want to. But yeah, he's got trade value. Yeah. Now it's not a ton, but he's movable. Let's leave it at that.
Yes,
he is movable.
Yes, he is, and that's all you need. And the last one I have moving out is Tommy Novak. So there's 5 guys I have moving out.
Wow, you're going all in here. 5,
but it's not over. I had 2 guys coming in to the Preds.
Okay, all right, you're going all in. Let me hear it.
I had Brant Clark from LA coming in, and I have Trevor Zegras. I know I'm not letting that dream go.
Oh, you are
not
fantasy
letting
land.
that go.
That you are in fantasy land right now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100% I'm in fantasy land here.
All right, so give me your top 6 then. With that, you're setting the table for me.
Yep. So top 6, I'm still gonna have Forsberg, O'Reilly, Marsh. So I didn't trade Ryan O'Reilly. I'm keeping Ryan O'Reilly on this team at least for now.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have Stamkos, Zegras, and Joachim Kemmel.
Oh, I mean, I'll watch that. I would love for this to happen, by the way.
Yeah.
Do not get me wrong on that. I am pulling for your scenario, your fantasy right now. I am all for it.
And also, as part of that, I had Ozzy Weisblatt, who was called up the other night. I have him making his permanent mark on the team in the top 9. I have a line of him, Fedor Svechkov, and Luke Evangelista. And 4th line, I got Cole Smith, Michael McCarron, and Zachary LaRue. And I have Mark Jankowski as the rotating 13th forward.
Gotcha. All right, so good stuff. I'm going to put mine on the screen.
Can I
here
do my defense too?
Well, let me put mine on the screen real quick, and we'll get it all out there, and then you can give you that, and then you can give us that. But for the Facebook and YouTube viewers, I'm going to put mine on the screen. And I didn't go all in with like predicting who might be on this team. Like Max gets extra credit points for that I didn't go all out for. So give him credit for that. But let me get mine on the screen real quick. And then we will discuss based on that. So there it is. Let me get the episode thing out of the way so people can actually read it. But here, this is my prediction here. Kind of similar to Max's. But all right, so as you can see with my predicted starting lineup, first of all, you don't see Colton Sissons in there.
Nope.
You don't see Gus Nyquist in there. So let's start with the forwards first. First line, I think Forsberg, O'Reilly, and Marchessault is going to be the top line for the rest of the season unless some kind of crazy injury happens or something. That's your top line. I've been big on trading Ryan O'Reilly. I don't think it's going to happen now. I mean, he wants to stay here. Trotz is kind of trying to show loyalty. And I ride both sides of the fence on this.
I do too.
I don't want to trade O'Reilly because I think he's a bad player and I don't want anything to do with him. I want to trade him because I think he's the most realistic trade asset we have. And I want to maximize anything we can get, especially considering he's only got 2 more years left here. And is O'Reilly going to be around for when this team actually pulls themselves out of the rebuild that I think they're about to go into? He's not. He'll be gone by the time this team really bears the fruits of that. So my thought is, as bad as it is, you got to part ways with him now. But if he doesn't want to go, and if he's truly loyal to this city and to this franchise, and he wanted to come here, then I think it would be a bad look on Trotz to trade him anyway. That'd be a bad look to other possible future free agents. Like, man, this guy showed his loyalty to your franchise while it was one of the worst teams in the league, and you traded him away anyway. Like, that would be a bad look. So I think they're going to keep O'Reilly, and I'm not totally against it necessarily. No. So that's what I think. I think the top line, even after all the trade deadline dust settles and the Preds sell off, Forsberg, O'Reilly, and Marchessault will be the top line. That's what I'm going to go with. And that line looked great against Buffalo. We'll give them that, right? I mean, that line feasted. O'Reilly had 4 assists in the game. Marchessault had 3 assists and 1 goal. Forsberg had 2 goals. It was a very sloppy game from both teams. The Buffalo Sabres are last place in the East. Very sloppy game. Not a lot of great defensive effort from either team.
Really bad defense.
But I am very, very entertained by how Buffalo plays. They are a fast and skilled team on offense for sure. Yeah. But let me go to my second line here. This was a really hard exercise, by the way. Like I texted Max while I was working on this earlier today, and I was like, this is hard. Like, this is not an easy exercise we're doing here. But all right, so and I was using Puckpedia as well to kind of like make my choices. But my second line, I've got Stammer, got Stamkos on second line still after the trade deadline. He ain't going anywhere. I don't see anybody waiving their trade, no trade clause or no move clause. I got Svechkov at second line center post-trade deadline. And here's my thinking behind this. I do want to explain this. You've got to use the rest of this season to let your prospects grow, to see what they're made of, to see what you got going into next season, see if they can get better and better. And you got to go through the growing pains here. And what better season to go through the growing pains than a season where you can't make the playoffs? You really got nothing to lose at this point if you're the Predators. I hate to say that, but you don't. If anything, the only thing you have to lose is losing better draft position. So let Svechkov play second line center. Keep him there. I understand that you're worried about damaging the confidence of younger players, and like Trotz has talked about that in the past. Like, I don't want to ruin these guys' confidence. I think we're past all that right now. Right. You gotta let these kids play. You gotta let them play. And Svechkov is going to have every opportunity to get a lot of minutes after the trade deadline, based on my prediction here. Evangelista, who's been hurt for a while, he's going to eventually get healthy. He should be ready to go after the Four Nations break. I got him back at the second line. So I got a line of Stamkos, Svechkov, and Evangelista. So Stamkos is basically playing mentor to two Evangelista's growing up, but he's still a young player in my opinion. So that's my second line. What do you think first about my top six, Max?
Pretty good. I was trying to flip up between Kemmel and Evangelista for that final spot in the top six, but yeah, I mean, that's not far off from what I have in it. And if my scenario doesn't go out, we don't get a guy like Zegras, then yeah, I'm for Svechkov being top six.
Yeah. I mean, if you're Zegras fantasy, I won't even call it prediction, but fantasy, that comes true. Well, then you can just take my prediction here and just throw it in a paper shredder, because that just shakes up everything. All right, my third line is where I really started struggling a little bit. Right now, Novak's not even playing center because of Colton
He's playing much better at the wing.
I know, but if Colton Sissons gets shipped out, you've got to really.
No, I know what you're saying.
You're really thin at center, and again, I don't think Tommy Novak's going to be traded. I think the organization is going to probably try to stick with him because he is signed for a couple more years, and they gave him a new contract this past year. I think they're going to try to stick with him through this early rebuild. And so I think that they're going to try to probably move Novak back to center and see what he can pull off. Much similar situation as Svechkov, but even though Novak's obviously much older and he should be much further along in his career, let's see what he can do at center again. I mean, he was supposed to be the second line center going into the season, and it just didn't work out, obviously. But so I got LaRue, Novak, and Kemmel as my third line. Now, again, this is very fluid. This is just what I'm predicting first game out of the trade deadline. I'm not saying it should be this way the rest of the season necessarily. If things happen, move Kemmel up to the top six if he's playing really well. But I want to see Kemmel in the lineup from here on out. I really do. Right. What do you have? Again, what do you have to lose? These guys are the future of your franchise, and they're going to make or break how quick this rebuild goes, is how ready are these younger core of players. LaRue, Kemmel, Novak, Svechkov, Evangelista for sure. How ready are these guys? How much more growth are they going to show us? That's going to show us how quick we get through this rebuild. Fourth line, Smith and McCarron, as much as I would honestly like to trade one of them and move on, I know they're grinders. I know they play the hard minutes. I've moved on more from McCarron than I have Smith. I'm okay with keeping Smith. He plays an important role. I'm over McCarron. I really am. I mean, the dude, he's such a one-trick pony. He hardly does anything other than just getting guys grills. He occasionally will do something kind of semi-impressive. I'm over it. I mean, I'm over McCarron. I would love for him to just be gone. Like, I respect the guy, but he's been around for a while. And it's like, I don't know. I want to see our bottom six get changed up a little bit. So, but he's going to be around. I don't think they're going to trade him. So he's still going to be on the fourth line with Cole Smith. And then I put a big question mark to be determined.
You probably put Mark Jankowski there.
Probably Mark Jankowski, but I also left it open for debate because I do think that the Preds will add another forward to their roster.
Or that could go to Ozzy Weisblatt.
Or it could go to Ozzy Weisblatt. But I left it as a question mark because I just think that's very much up for debate right now. Sure. And then you see and then we'll get Max's D pairings, but my D pairings are at the bottom there. I got Yossi and Barron. That's what they're rolling with now. I know Barron has not looked great. He's been very inconsistent, but I'll keep him up there. Again, what do you have to lose at this point? Let's see what you got in him. Let him keep growing into that role, playing alongside Yossi. Second pairing, I got Brady Shea and Nick Blankenberg. Again, why break it up? Keep doing it. And then my third line wants Willsby, who just got a new contract. So good for him. Congrats. Well-deserved. And then I got Lazan on there. Max, you said Lazan, you think he's gone.
Yeah. And, I also said I thought Brent Clark is in. And in case you're wondering, I do have them being traded for each other. I'm okay with making that trade up, as crazy as that sounds.
And also, I do think there's the likelihood of Lazan getting traded seems to be going up right now.
Yeah.
Because apparently the Preds did go out and get a new defenseman, claimed Andreas England from the LA Kings. He's a brawler, basically. He's probably an NHL tweener / two-way guy. He's not going to move the needle. But I pulled it up on YouTube and looked at his highlights, and the first 6 videos on his YouTube is all fights. Yeah. I mean, hey, if I get more fights the rest of the season, I'm okay with it. Because again, this season is so lost. Give me fights. Yeah. Give me fights at this point. But yeah, I mean, go watch his highlights. I didn't get a chance to watch a ton of them because we were going live, but the dude scraps. Yeah. So maybe throw him in. Maybe they got him because something else bigger is happening. And Lazan, the wheels of trading Lazan are in the works. Yeah. It's just Lazan's been out for so long. I can't think of how many teams would be interested in Lazan with him being on injured reserve for so long. That's what makes me kind of a little skeptical of that.
But, he's not out for the season, so I could still see that happening. But really the difference I had with the D pairings, I put Yossi and Clark on the top pairing. Shane Blankenberg stayed right with each other, and I had Willsby and Barron on the third pairing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be happy when Willsby gets back for sure. I love watching this guy play, and that's really I'm not going to give up on watching this team. I mean, I watched every second of that Blackhawks game, which was definitely rock bottom of the season. It was like watching a train wreck for sure. I mean, but I couldn't look away. I really couldn't. Like, I watched it till the end. I had to. It was so bad that I couldn't turn away. I hate to say it, but it was that bad. And so my point is, from here on out, we're going to have to realize where we're at and kind of come to grips with reality on what this team is and embrace it. Embrace the rebuild. That's my new slogan for this team, is embrace the rebuild. And I could have never dreamt in a million years back in July that I would be saying this on the day that they signed Stamkos, Marchessault, and Shea, and they were the talk of the NHL. Me and you did an episode on it. We were me and you both were going nuts over it. We couldn't keep up with it all. And now here I am sitting in February, and I'm talking about embrace the rebuild.
Yeah.
It is
what it is. It's
reality. Reality has set in. And apparently, I even read an article that reality has set in for Barry Trotz.
No, he basically said that at his press conference last week. He was like, yeah, playoffs out of the picture.
I mean, I love being honest. Be honest, But I do want to give a huge shout out to the fan base on Saturday night against Buffalo. They showed out. They really did. I was very impressed by the fans that were there to support the Preds against the Sabres. And they showed their true diehard loyalty to a team They quite honestly doesn't deserve a lot of cheering, but they showed up like true fans do. And so I want to give a huge shout out to the fans who were there, especially if you're listening right now and you were at that game. Give us a shout out on X or give us a shout out in the YouTube comments. You deserve the utmost respect for going to that game, but not only going, but you showed your support. You cheered on the team. That's not easy to do. That shows how true of a fan you are. So definitely want to give you your props for that. So that's our predicted lineup. Respond to us in the comments or on social media. Tell us how you would predict the lineup. I really like how Max threw in Trevor Zegras. I hope he's right. And Max has been right about a lot of things in the past, so let's hope he's right about this one. But
you never know.
All right, you don't. I mean, hey, Trevor Zegras, he's getting shopped out there for sure.
Oh, yeah. He needs to change the scenery. He does.
And sometimes that's all you need is a change of scenery.
Yep.
All right, so let's get another Preds topic in real quick, and that is talking about how all these players are underperforming their career numbers. And I'm going to pull it up right now. I'm going to pull up the Predators page on Hockey Reference and just look at these numbers. I mean, we'll start with Forsberg, who's leading the team, and he's the one player we can say, okay, he's at least performing at his career average point per game this year. 53 points in 54 games. So I wouldn't say he's underperforming. But after Forsberg, Marchessault's starting to kind of come back around. But even when you look at Marchessault, he's got 27 assists, but look at his goals. He's got 17 goals. Last year for Vegas, he set a career high with, I believe, 43.
Something like that, yeah.
It was definitely a career high. I want to make sure I get that number exactly right. 42. I mean, so even though he's coming around lately, completely dropped off offensively. And as we know, this team is completely snake bitten when it comes to finishing on offense this year. But let's go further down the list. I'm looking at the point leaders for the team. So I'm going in order. Forsberg, Marchessault. Then number 3 on the team is Roman Josi. I don't want to come down on Roman Josi. The dude is, I mean, he's 34 years old now. I mean, father time catches up with every player. He has not been the same dominant Roman Josi this year. He hasn't. He has those spurts where he is vintage Roman Josi, but you can tell that age is starting to catch up to Roman Josi.
Yeah.
Am I overreacting there?
I beginning of the year, I literally came. I was talking on the podcast as the guy kind of washed, and then he had a stretch of several games, probably even like almost 2 months, where he actually started to look more like vintage Roman Josi. But it's still, then you're right, it's not been quite the same. Some that probably due to everyone around him playing so badly? Probably. Is it his own age catching up? Probably. Could he have another dominant season or two before his career ends? He probably could, but fact of the matter is this year he's not been quite the same Roman Josi we're used to seeing. Yeah, you're definitely right.
I mean, you see him right there, minus 25 plus minus. And I know we don't like to get too deep into plus minus because there's a lot of factors that go into plus minus. And a lot of times it is an overused statistic. But when you see minus 25, I don't care how much you don't like to use that stat, minus 25, that is jaw-dropping.
Yeah,
from your captain. As a career player, Roman Josi is a plus 60. You see it right there on the screen.
And
plus
the
60
fact
for
that
his
also
career.
he's
a minus 25.
And I know he's mainly a facilitator and that kind of stuff. The fact that he doesn't even have 10 goals at this point in the year is pretty alarming.
Yeah. You go further down, Ryan O'Reilly's 4th on the team in points. He's got 34 points. That's after a 4 assist a game. 4 assists he just had against the Sabres. But he's got 34 points. Last year, Ryan O'Reilly in his first year with the Predators had 69 points. So he's honestly not that far behind what he did last year. He could get really hot in the second half of the season and come close to what he did last year. So he might be one player that I feel like hasn't regressed from last year. he at the very least, he has pretty much kept up with what we could have expected. I don't think he's been a letdown at all. Him and Forsberg. Would you agree with that, Max? Oh, you think Stamkos has been not a letdown?
No. I'm saying I was going to move on to him, but about O'Reilly, I think he's been. I would say slightly a letdown a little bit, but not too far back. I would say slightly a letdown for O'Reilly.
Okay, but so next down the list is Stamkos.
He's definitely been
a letdown.
You definitely.
I mean, he's got 17 goals on the season. 9 of those on the power play. He's been really quiet lately, though. I mean, he has been pretty much a non-factor. Like the last couple. Go ahead.
Since that top line started, like, kind of stopped. Since they stopped clicking, he's been not going to be found really.
I mean, the last couple games, he's been like invisible. Like I haven't even noticed him. I almost had to double check to make sure he was even in the game playing. Like that's how invisible he's been lately. I'm pulling up his game logs real quick because he's on a pointless streak. Oh yeah, I figured it had been a while. Look at this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 game point drought.
Wow,
not goal drought, point drought. The guy has not registered a point. Future Hall of Famer Steven Stamkos has not registered a point in 7 straight games. I mean, I went to the Lightning game last week against the Senators, and I was sitting lower bowl, sitting around a lot of season ticket holders. Got it through our former sponsor, Game Time. That's how I got my tickets. And I was sitting around all these Lightning season ticket holders, and I was talking to a lot of them about Stamkos. And, they don't watch the Predators, obviously. They're not like, so they were asking me, they were like, what is going on with your team? What is wrong with Stamkos? What is like, and I was like, I wish I had an answer. I literally was telling people, I don't know what to tell you. I don't have an answer. It's so baffling to me. And it's not just Stamkos. It's almost, that's kind of the point of this segment is Stamkos is a big part of the underperformance, but it's not just him. It's like played this entire team in a lot of ways. But like you go further down, I mean, Brady Shea, come on now.
Yeah.
I don't want to beat down on Brady Shea. And he did have probably his best game against Buffalo in a Predators uniform just now. Had 2 goals in that game. But, I mean, that 7-year contract, Max, is really starting to look pretty bad.
It looks terrible. Looks terrible.
And we didn't like it when we saw it.
I didn't think it would be this bad, but it's that's the one.
And they're going to have to stick with him.
Oh yeah,
you're not. He'll be back. He'll be back next year, and you hope he can have a revival next year. But and then you go down the list even further. Your seventh point scorer, your 7th most point scorer this year only has 20 points. That's bad.
And I mean, did we all? I mean, again, I didn't think he'd fall off this bad, but did we not all say like Nyquist was not going to have the same year he did last year?
But Max, yes, you did say that, but he didn't just fall back. I mean, he jumped off a cliff.
Yeah.
And he's 35 years old. And I hate to say this, but I can't even imagine his trade values. I mean, you're going to have to kind of, whoever you want to trade Gus Nyquist to, that team's going to have the leverage in the trade.
I think he's still partly. He's only has this year $3 million cap hit. And they'll know what he did last. I think knowing what he did last year is going to help out his trade value a little bit. Regardless, it's definitely way lower.
He's going to be valuable. Don't get me wrong. There's going to be a team. There's going to be some teams that want him. They're going to want to get that playoff experience. Gus Nyquist has a really good individual playoff track record. The guy's it wouldn't surprise me at all if Nyquist gets traded to a playoff team and Nyquist goes off in the playoffs. It wouldn't surprise me at all. It depends on the situation, but I could see him. I could see a player like Nyquist landing in the right spot and landing on the right team and just hitting a hot streak in the playoffs and helping a team go deep in the playoffs. It wouldn't. So he does have trade value. My point is, I don't think Trotz is going to have the leverage in those negotiations. Trotz is going to have, because Trotz knows he has to trade him.
Right.
So there's going to be teams that are going to be like, well, we're only going to take him for this. And Trotz isn't going to have a lot of leverage there, unfortunately. Yeah. You're going to have to unload him. But then just to round out this segment real quick, just to really make it even more clear, Novak has not lived up. I know he goes through spurts. Seems like he might be playing a little bit better lately. He's so streaky. Novak's become a really streaky player. But he's only got 19 points on the year. I mean, just to click on Novak's career numbers, he's definitely gone backwards in his progression because you just look at Novak. His first full-time year in the league was 2022-23, so 2 seasons ago, and he put up 43 points in 51 games. Nearly a point per game player. He's got 19 points in 45 games this year. Last year, he had 45 points in 75 games. So he dropped off a little bit last year too. But it's just like, yeah, I mean.
You wonder how much injuries and the lack of physical game really impacting. Because I remember the beginning of last year, he played 9-10 games, maybe more. He was on a point per game pace. He gets injured, takes time to come back. Then it kind of gets his groove back a little bit. That gets into the playoffs. We all remember in the playoffs, he was completely outclassed, out of his element, all that. And then ever since then, you wonder if a guy like that. I'm not saying
this is why when you look at his possession metrics, this is what gives me hope for Novak. He's an effective skater. He's a strong skater. Look at that. His Corsi is a 60. That's exceptional. For people who don't know, Corsi basically just rates the effectiveness of your skating, of your possession, of driving plays, driving offense. Novak has a 60.7. That is exceptional. That's above average. A lot of your elites, and he's always been good in his Corsi. But for whatever reason, he cannot translate that to being a dynamic top 6 player. So that's why I want to keep seeing Novak play a little bit more this year. We're going to learn a lot about what these players are made of after the trade deadline. The players that are sticking around, we're going to learn a lot about them. We're going to learn a lot about if they're going to be the future of Nashville or not. And no matter where this team finishes in the standings, even with this season being lost in terms of how it went, that's what we want to see. That's what I want to see the rest of the year is how do these young players, first and foremost, how do they respond? How do they take this opportunity? How do they treat the rest of this season like it's quote unquote their Super Bowl? Because it's their time to shine, Max. These younger players, it's their time to shine. They need to go out there and prove to Barry Trotz, we got you. We are the future, and we got you. And I don't want to see our draft position screwed up. I really want to see this team pick in the top 5. I actually want to see them pick in the top 3. But I don't want them to somehow get hot and end up having to pick late top 10 because this draft class is very top heavy. But just looking at the mock drafts, there's a lot of really good talent and a lot of good prospects that the Predators could use if they're picking in the top 5. It gets a lot more watered down outside of the top 5 from what I'm looking at on draft classes and a lot of scouting reports. So, but if the young players end up playing well and they show you hey, we can do this, that's going to be what I'm focused on the rest of the season. I'm not going to even be focused on wins and losses necessarily. I'm not going to be focused on where this team's at in the standings. Let's say hi to some people. We got Matt in here. Let's say hi to Matt on YouTube. Yo, I finally caught this live. I'm pretty sure that's Matt Hardesty.
I think that is.
He says, I warned you about Stamkos. Laugh out loud. Yes, you did, Matt. Total credit to you, Matt. Let's say hi. Let's see. We got Mike Twitter jumping in here again. Only time I've noticed Stamkos while watching Preg games lately is in that commercial he's in. Good one. That's a good one. I like that, Mike.
Man, that hurts. That still hurts.
It hurts because it's true. The truth hurts.
True. Yes.
Johnny says Brady's been worse than Stamkos.
He's been by far the worst. By far the worst.
Out of the new players, of course. And then Justin Gambino, our buddy Justin. He said, I was at the game the other day. I don't know. Barron and Stamkos were sort of hard to watch personally, but I don't know. The whole team is bad this year, so who knows? I feel this year is hard to judge individuals.
It is a hard year to judge pretty much everyone, to be honest.
Thanks for the comments, everybody. Keep it rolling. You make the show so much better when you guys are commenting on the show so that you're not stuck just listening to me and Max's opinions.
Right.
But, all right, so good stuff there. Not so good stuff, I should say. But with that, let's roll into our next segment, and that is looking at the teams that don't have a Stanley Cup, including the Predators still. And I'm going to put it on the screen so it's easy for people to digest. But I'm going to pull up the teams that are remaining that don't have a Stanley Cup yet. That number is getting super low. But there's still some very interesting teams that don't have a Stanley Cup. And I think Johnny knows where I'm going with this because he is up there in the Vancouver area. So Johnny already knows about cup droughts.
They might be going in kind of the wrong direction. I don't know. Well, they've actually won a few games lately, so.
So let me put it on the screen here for YouTube and Facebook viewers. There you have it. Which teams that it – by the way, this came from I'm pretty sure this post came from a Facebook or Instagram post. So I didn't create that graphic. I don't want to take credit for it. But which team that has never won a cup, who will be next? So there you have it. You got the Sabres, the Blue Jackets, the Wild, the Preds, the Senators, the Sharks, the Kraken, which isn't really fair because they're such a new team. Utah Hockey Club, formerly the Arizona Coyotes, Vancouver Canucks, and the Winnipeg Jets. Also, the Winnipeg Jets, formerly the Atlanta Thrashers. Let's keep it all in perspective here. And then, of course, on that list, the Canucks have been around the longest, I'm pretty sure. The Sabres have been around a while as well. But let's start with which team out of that list, Max, do you think is closest to being the next team to win their first Stanley Cup?
Closest right now, you probably got to say Winnipeg, right? Just how well they're doing this year.
That's what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
They got Connor Hellebuck. All they need is Connor Hellebuck to just do what he's doing all year. They've got the talent. They've got the scoring. They've got the defense. It's a very hard place to win at. When Winnipeg's rocking, that is a very tough road environment. If they can put it together in the playoffs finally, they're going to be a hard team to beat.
Absolutely.
So I would put them number one. Gets a little wishy-washy at number two.
It does.
But I was between Ottawa and Minnesota.
I was also picking Ottawa potentially.
Minnesota's the chalk pick just because they are also having a good year and they're getting close. But I took Ottawa as my number two team closest. Ottawa's coming.
They're
coming.
Yeah, I always kind of view. I mean, who am I to talk as a Preds fan here? You could say, but I always kind of view Minnesota kind of being stuck in that like no man's middle land. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So Matt's asking furthest from first cup. Furthest, maybe the Preds.
Buffalo, Columbus, or us, maybe.
No, I think Columbus is closer than the Preds are. Columbus is in a playoff position right now.
Are they really?
Yeah, look at the standings. I would say it's a close tie of furthest. It's a close tie between the Preds and the Sharks.
Well, Sharks are going kind of in that right with their prospect,
but they're still really far away.
They're still really great. Yeah, they're still.
If we're just thinking Stanley Cup perspective here, not playoffs, Stanley Cup, I would say I would call it a three-way tie between Buffalo, San Jose, and Nashville.
I think Seattle is honestly pretty far. They seem kind of stuck in mud.
They are stuck in mud. They did not take the blueprint from the Vegas Golden Knights.
Now I see Utah. Utah's not really progressed a ton either.
Justin says Sens and Preds probably equal. See, I don't agree with you there, Justin. I think the Senators.
I put Ottawa ahead of us for now, for sure.
No, the Senators they're doing it the right way.
Yeah,
they're building a good team. They're fun to watch. I don't know if they have enough to get in there. But I could see every year there's a team that surprises everybody in the playoffs. It would not surprise me all that much if Ottawa gets in the playoffs this year and they go on a tear. They got Linus Ullmark, who, I mean, they got their goalie. They've got some scoring talent. They're fast. The problem with Ottawa is I don't know if they're deep enough to make that long grind all the way to a Stanley Cup necessarily. But they're a team that I think could just get hot at the right time. I think they got the pieces.
You know, the team in there that I think is the most interesting, and we don't know which way they really are right now, I would say Vancouver, because we don't know what direction they're going to go really right now. They've what was I going to say? Oh yeah, since last year they obviously had a really good year, and then this year they've been not as good. And obviously they just traded JT Miller because him and Elias Pettersson were having those problems. We don't know exactly what they were, but we know there was something going on between the two of them, and they just traded JT Miller. Well, the rumors apparently aren't like just done with Elias Pettersson. And I've heard if they trade him, and I'm sure you've seen this too, Chad, apparently Quinn Hughes might not want to be there too much longer because he's coming to the end of his contract. So, I mean, if they can keep with their current core, keep going, they can keep Pettersson and Hughes, I think they can win here in a few years. If they trade them both, then they're probably farther behind than everyone else on this list.
If it wasn't for the Predators, I would call the Canucks the most disappointing team in the league.
They're close to it.
They got the Predators to save them from that.
Yeah, right.
From that title. All right, so I would go, just to recap on this discussion, I would go Winnipeg is the closest. I would go Ottawa number 2. I know that's arguable, but I would go Ottawa number 2. I would go Minnesota number 3.
Okay.
And then after that, it gets really murky for me. Like, you're kind of splitting hairs after that. Like, I think a lot of these teams have a long ways to go before they're going to get anywhere near a cup after you get past those first 3. I guess I would put Vancouver number 4, even though they are a mess right now.
Yeah, I don't know where they're. I don't know where they're going to be in a month. I don't know.
But once you get past Vancouver, if you're talking Utah, Seattle, Columbus, I would probably throw Columbus in there as a team that's starting to get over a rebuild. I like how they've drafted.
Man, how much would they deserve it after everything they've been through?
I know. Columbus has a really good prospect pool, from what I understand. They're showing a lot of promise this year, so I could see Columbus being a couple years away from being a serious contender. So Buffalo's so cursed. It's so hard to believe in Buffalo.
I'll believe it when I see it with Buffalo.
And like you said, Seattle's kind of stuck in the mud, and then Utah hockey.
Utah, really?
Yeah, I mean, they're in a weird spot. They're trying to figure out who. They don't even have a team name yet.
They talk about a team that literally does not have an identity.
Right. I mean, I really was hoping for Yetis. I was pulling for that. But the literal company Yetis, who make the mugs, basically said, we're not going to share this name with you. It's very unfortunate. I think that could have been a really good partnership. It's kind of weird to me. But Yetis would have been now they're thinking about going with Mammoth.
Literally, the hockey club was the top 3 finalist.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like Outlaws just because it sounds too much like an Arena Football League team or something.
It's better than the hockey club.
So I think they're going to go with Mammoth probably, but we'll see. But yeah, they don't even. I mean, we can't say. How funny would it be if Utah Hockey Club won the Stanley Cup as Utah Hockey Club? All right. Let's tell you about our current DraftKings offer right now. So NFL is coming on. We got to talk a little bit about the Super Bowl. We'll do that here in a little bit. But now we've got a great offer with our promo code for DraftKings when it comes to the NHL season that still has plenty of time left in it. The NHL season has been as predictable as a puck rolling on its edge. No one knows where it's going, but that just means there's time for your favorite team to figure things out. Unless you're a Predators fan.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, if they're still, I mean, they are. We hear that every post-game interview is, we're figuring it out. But, you still have time for your favorite team to figure things out. And games left for you to get in the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. It's super easy for first-timers to get started. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, select your team, and place your first bet. And if you're new to DraftKings, listen up, new customers, bet just $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. What a deal there. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY. That's 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. New customers only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. NHL and NHL team marks are the property of the NHL and its teams. NHL 2025, all rights reserved. All right, so go take advantage of that offer for the DraftKings folks out there. Let's get really fun here, and all right, so we got a good little crowd in our comment stream tonight. Love all you guys. We're about to do our battle royale of NHL mascots. Let me put my tiers of my, and I didn't do every mascot. I just did like the ones that I first came up with. But my tiers are kind of like hilarious in a way, like how I did these. So the way I did my tiers is my top tier is F around and find out. So those are the mascots that you just don't want to mess with. Put it that way. You don't want to mess with them in a fight. You don't want to mess with them. My next tier is going to be Nightmare Fuel. These are just mascots, and there's really two. I only have one because I couldn't find a good photo of the other one, but there it is. So my F around and find out tier is Gnash. I gotta put Gnash up there. Come on.
Yeah.
I gotta put the Devil from the New Jersey Devils. I mean, he's a devil. He's scary. Don't mess with the devil. So I put him up there. And then I put the lion. That's the mascot of the Kings up there. Because, I mean, lions are very intimidating. All right, everybody. So my nightmare tier, my nightmare fuel tier is Gritty. Come on now. It's where nightmares are born. And then I couldn't find a good picture of Bowie. Bowie is the mascot of the Seattle Kraken. And that is nightmare fuel, Max. Have you seen Bowie?
A few pictures here. I forgot exactly what it looks like, but I've seen before, and he's.
My next tier is these mascots will probably fight dirty. Like they're gonna scratch, they're gonna claw, they're not gonna follow the rules in a battle royale if there are rules. But I got the whatever the green thing is, Victory. I think the Stars mascot is called Victory. Definitely would fight dirty. I've got the Moose for Winnipeg Jets. The Moose would fight dirty. Have you seen the Moose? Have you seen a moose in the wild? They are not friendly.
Funny story. So several years ago, and my family goes out to ski quite often, and one year we saw some mooses, not where we were skiing, but just in the mountains there. It was insane. It wasn't pretty far away. Just we saw them in our ski lift, but just seeing them from a distance was honestly scary.
Oh yeah, moose are it's not like cartoons. It's not like the Disney movies. Do not mess with
a moose
in the wild. But anyway, so that's why I got the Winnipeg Jets, the Moose. I gotta see. I'm looking at the names of all these, the official names. Mickey Moose. That's the name of the Winnipeg Jets.
That
Mickey
was personally
Moose.
the one I was most intimidated from the mascot list.
Also in my fights dirty tier, I've got the Sharks. I got the Sharks mascot, SJ Sharky. I don't know. I mean, Sharks fight dirty. I mean, I saw the movie Jaws. They fight dirty. I've got the Vancouver Canucks. Just because it's the Canucks. Finn the Whale. I don't know. I think I'm just biased because it's the Canucks. And then my next tier is too adorable. That means how can you take them seriously in a battle royale because they're too cute? So you got the Maple Leafs mascot, and I've got to look up the name. Carlton the Bear. I mean, does it get any less intimidating than that for your mascot? Carlton the Bear. I mean, adorable, right? You just want to like cuddle up the bear. Like, so not going to work in a battle royale. And then the other mascot I got there, who is that? I got to zoom in for that one. It looks like another bear though. Who is that? Max, any ideas on who that other one is in the too adorable category?
I can't have that in my head.
It's another cute looking bear. I don't know. Anyway, too adorable. Then my next tier is Puncher's Chance. So these are like, I'm thinking like the underdog. Like, hey, maybe you got a chance. I got the Bruins mascot in there. Blades the Bruin. I've got the Panthers mascot. What's the Panthers mascot's name? Stanley C. Panther. And then I got the Golden Knights mascot.
Yeah.
At the Puncher's Chance. Which that is, what's his name? There, I'm not even seeing that one. And then you've got the Oilers, which looks like a bobcat or a lynx, which I don't know what that has to do with the Oilers. But Puncher's Chance. And then Call 911. These are ones where I'm like, yeah, it's going to be bad. Like, it's going to be rough for these guys. They're probably going to not even have a chance. You're going to need Call 911 for these guys if they're in a battle royale because it's not going to be pretty for them. So in that category, I've got the Carolina Hurricanes mascot, which looks like a cow. Stormy. Not going to do well. Not going to do well in a battle royale of mascots. It's going to be ugly. You've got the Penguins mascot, which is what's the Penguins mascot? Where does his name go? Iceberg. Yeah, I'm not putting any money on Iceberg. Then you've got the Minnesota Wild mascot, and then the worst mascot of all, and me and Rich both agreed on this when we did this segment way early in the days of the podcast. Whatever the hell the mascot is of the Canadians, they need to revamp that. I mean, that is like pretty bad. Let me look it up real quick. Let me look up the Canadians mascot. Youppi. Yeah. Youppi's not working for me.
No. Nope.
If Youppi ends up in a battle royale, you're going to need to call 911 immediately for Youppi because Youppi's going to need a stretcher within like the first 2 minutes. So that's just some of my tiers. So Max, break down your cutting edge analysis of my mascots.
I'll say I didn't do the total breakdown like you did.
I spent way too much time on this today. You can tell I had a lot of time on my hands.
Nash. I actually didn't even think about Nash. It's kind of hard to forget. The Devil one's actually one that's pretty. What's the other one in the F round and find out tier?
That is the Kings mascot.
Okay.
Let me get the name.
Either way, the ones I had, if I had like my final two like mascots that I think are going to be the scariest, I put Mickey Moose from Winnipeg, and I put Gritty because who isn't scared of Gritty?
Oh yeah, definitely. I wanted to put Gritty in the top there, but I just think he's more like Freddy Krueger. Like he'll haunt your nightmares. Bailey is the LA Kings mascot.
Okay,
it's a lion. The Kings took a more they took that mascot, I guess. Let's see. I don't know why they came up with a lion. That's kind of random when you call it weird. Kings. But either way, it's a decent mascot. It's pretty cool. Yep. I like lions. Lions are one of my favorite animals. So, it's a cool mascot. So, yeah, there's your cutting edge best NHL discussion you'll hear all week is me breaking down my mascots in a battle royale. So there you have it. All right, let's get the comments here. Let's see what people are saying. Johnny jumps in and says, Youppi and Gritty would make an awesome tag team duo. You know what would be really cool? If the NHL All-Star Game, whenever it comes back, does an event where they do a cage match. Like old school wrestling, WWE style. They did a cage match with mascots, and they did tag team duos. So like Gnash could like team up with like, I don't know, like one other mascot would be fun. And then you could do tag team duo cage matches. I would watch that probably. I'd be more interested in that than probably the All-Star game itself.
Right. At this point, yeah.
But of course, we don't get the All-Star game this year. We do get the Four Nations face-off, which I am actually really excited to watch.
That's going to be awesome.
I love seeing players represent their countries. It's going to give me an Olympics vibe for sure. So let's see. Yuppie got some baseball bats in his locker room to take action with. There you go. So maybe Yuppie needs to be in the fights dirty category instead of the call 911. Let's see. Johnny says originally the mascot of the Expos was Yuppie, but when they left town, that the Abs bought the mascot from the Nationals. Okay. There you go. Johnny always comes with the history knowledge.
Absolutely.
He's literally an encyclopedia. Awesome. Thank you, Johnny, for that. All right, Max, what do we have left here? Oh, yeah, let's talk about
trade deadline.
Trade deadline. Who's going to be the most interesting teams besides the Preds? I got to start with the Lightning, and I know that's kind of in my backyard. It's where I live down here. I think the Lightning are going to be a very intriguing team. They don't have a ton of cap space right now, but they can maneuver. They can make some things happen with that. And I can see the Lightning making a big buy for somebody at the trade deadline because they've got, even though we all kind of realize they're probably not, they're not the dynasty they were anymore. That dynasty's probably dead. But the Lightning are a team that if they play the trade deadline properly and they figure out a way to get into the playoffs, which is not a foregone conclusion, the Eastern Conference and the Atlantic
bloodbath.
It is a cluster. It is a cluster. And so the Lightning are just jumbled up with a bunch of teams right now trying to figure out a way to get in. And if they get in and they make some smart moves at the trade deadline, that's another team that I think could get hot and go deep. They got the elite talent. They got the playmakers. They got Vasilevsky. So they wouldn't be one of my top picks to win the Stanley Cup this year, obviously. But if they get in, they could still be dangerous. So that's the team that I'm really going to be watching for at the trade deadline as a buyer. Who's the team you got?
Two teams I have just as interesting. Just because I kind of don't know which way they're going to go. I'm saying the Boston Bruins and the New York Rangers. They're both kind of teams that, especially the Rangers, where they want to be contending right now. Season hasn't really gone according to plan. Rangers were going through a lot of turmoil early in the year, but they've seemed to bounce back from that a good bit. And it's Rangers too. It's also interesting. They just traded for JT Miller. Of course, that's not a rental move. That's a long-term move for a guy with a big contract, even though he is older. But with both those teams, it's going to be interesting to see. Do they view themselves as? Do they still think they have a chance at going far this year? Do they think they're probably not going to do anything this year? My odds are for me, if I had to choose, I would think the Bruins probably would come to the conclusion they should probably go in the other directions. I could see the Rangers potentially still trying to go back in the direction of buying to try and jumpstart their hopes, because again, they technically should still be a contender right now, even though this season for them hasn't gone according to plan. But the Bruins and Rangers, the two teams I'm watching to see, what are they going to do?
Another team that I'll be interested in is the Colorado Avalanche. They're another team that they feel like they're in a position to win another Stanley Cup. And now that they don't have Mikko Rantanen anymore, I mean, I feel like they're going to try to make something happen at the deadline.
Which you talk about a cluster, that second, third, and fourth spot in the Central, that right there, you got Dallas 72 points, Minnesota 70, Colorado 68. That's going to be a battle.
Yeah. And so I could see the Avalanche being in the market of getting a big time rental player, someone that they just want to rent for this year. I could see it happening. Another team, and we already talked about them in the teams that don't have a Stanley Cup, I think the Columbus Blue Jackets, they have a ton of salary cap space. They can, and they are already overperforming their preseason expectations. They've done the opposite of what the Predators have done this year. They are outperforming their expectations. And so with that kind of cap space, if you're the Blue Jackets and you're running that front office, you have to be a buyer. You have to go all in. You got to see what you can make out of this season. You can turn this season into really something special. And they've been rebuilding for a few years now. So if you're that fan base, you're like, yes, please go buy. Let's make something happen here. So the Blue Jackets would be a fun story. I wouldn't have any problem as an outsider cheering for a team like the Blue Jackets for very obvious reasons. Number one, with the Johnny Gaudreau tragedy and what that franchise has been through, I think everybody would get behind the Columbus Blue Jackets if they made the playoffs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It'd be I'm getting chills just thinking about it. Seriously, it would be so cool to see the Columbus Blue Jackets do something special this year in the playoffs in memory of Johnny Gaudreau. It would be so awesome. So I would like to see what they pull off. And then I want to talk about your I know it was a couple days ago, but I'm putting it on the screen. But Max, you put out a tweet about your tiers of Preds trade deadline. So I want to put that on the screen. I took a screenshot of it. There it is. And so it was a couple days ago. This was on February 8th. So that was 2 days ago. But let's get that on the screen for our viewers to see. And then you can kind of walk us through your thinking behind that. I found it to be a really good tweet that you put out there. And really got me thinking. It was intriguing. And so let me get it on the screen for the viewers. There it is right there. So walk us through it, Max. So you've got your trade tier, your under the right circumstances tier, and your don't feel strongly either way. So go through it.
Yeah. So, talking about, I've talked a lot about Gus Nyquist being on trade. I've spoke a lot. I'm not going to say anything more about him. Everyone knows that he should be one of the
writing is on the wall.
Yeah. I mean, and I've talked, even dating back last offseason, I've spoken enough about, and again, let me emphasize, I'm not trying to hate on the guy. I'm really not. I'm just saying it's just what needs to happen. And that's just part of the business.
It's obvious. He's an unrestricted free agent. He's 35 years old. What else needs to be said?
Yeah, right. Luke Shen, like we talked about earlier, again, the guy, if you ask most Preds fans, you're like, how the hell is this guy going to have any value? Some people would even pay to get rid of him, but no. Luke Shen is, again, he's physical. He blocks shots. Yeah, he can't really skate that well at all. But again, he's one of those guys. He does, again, being physical. And again, he does genuinely have a reputation of a good culture guy in the league. So there's teams that would.
Teams want that.
Yeah. And I'm saying.
Especially for a playoff run.
And also, when you look at the logjam on defense, free up as much space as you can back there. Maybe not as much, but like for the
right shot defenseman.
Yeah.
Right shot defensemen are hard to come by.
True, but again, Luke Shen is not going to provide what this team really needs right now. And again, trading him is going to free up some more space for younger guys to come up. So
it needs to happen.
I'm all aboard getting rid of him. Colton Sissons been a great stalwart for this franchise for years. Does everything right. Gritty.
Ran its course.
But yeah, ran its course. He's got this year next in his contract.
That will now trading a player like Colton Sissons will in the immediate term, it will downgrade this team. It will. But we're not in the market of trying to win a bunch of games the rest of the year. So I do think it'll, in the instant reality of it, if you trade away Colton Sissons, this team is going to bear the brunt of it. It's going to hurt this team. You're going to see a lot more turnovers. You're going to see the special teams get affected by it. It's going to be it's going to be hard for some of these younger players to replicate what Colton Sissons does. And I think we're going to realize really fast how much, if he gets traded, how much of the little things Colton Sissons does that gets overlooked. But I'm in full agreement. He has to be traded.
And to your same logic, Chad, by that logic, any team that's trying to win now is going to feel that upgrade in their team depth. And I'm not saying you expect a big return for Colton Sissons, but in a world where, that's true.
Real quick, you guys are bringing the comedy tonight, and I love it. You guys are awesome. Matt gets on here and says Shin is a playoff player, not an 82 game player like Cole Smith. Cole Smith is the best 82 game player I've ever watched in my life.
Right. But to what I was saying, in the short term, any team that trades for Sissons is going to feel that upgrade in their depth. And in a world where, again, not saying expect a big return for Sissons, but in a world where guys like Brendan Hagel and Tanner Jeannot can get first-round picks plus, you never know what a guy like Colton Sissons can fetch you. So either way, see what you can get. And then last under this tier, Jeremy Lauzon, again, this year and next. And guy, I would say of the guys on this list, on the trade list, he's probably the guy I'd be most okay keeping. But again, you can make room for your defense. He's going to be 28, or he might be 28 already. Not sure if there's going to be a fit long-term. And again, he plays on the left side, and the left side is especially log-jammed. So try to trade him. Do what you can there.
And I do think it's been pretty obvious that the Preds do miss Jeremy Lauzon.
And that's what I'm a little worried about.
Because not just his physicality, which speaks for itself, but I don't think the Preds have been nearly as organized in their defensive structure without Lauzon. They give away the puck a lot. Now, I will say this past game, they showed up in a way of blocking shots. I think they blocked like 26 shots or something crazy. So they do have their games where they lay their body out, but a lot of defensive breakdowns, a lot of giveaways, a lot of like just the passing has never been there this year. And that's kind of where a lot of fans come after Andrew Burnett is, okay, well, something clearly has to be wrong with the system if all these players just magically forgot how to pass. You know what I mean? Like the timing is always off with this team. Every game you watch almost, this team has no timing. Like they're not on the same page with each other. And that does make you look at the head coach and you're like, what the hell is going on here? Why can you not?
Or fits within the system too.
Why can you not get these guys to be? I mean, we're literally past that. We're way past the halfway point. We should not be having these problems anymore.
I get it, but there's a lot of things going on there. But anyway,
under the right circumstance.
Yep. I said Tommy Novak. We've talked about him. He's still youngish, although he's not totally young. And he struggled this year, obviously, but playing good at the wing. Again, unless you can do something that's worth it, I'm okay to give him a little more time on this team, see what he can do moving forward. Because, again, he's starting to get better now. And, again, he was one of those guys originally had the thought of for the future. So I don't want to part with him that easily, but as a guy, I'm definitely looking to move if you can.
And here's my thought on that. I'm with you. I have the sentiment of Novak of unless someone just really wants to overpay for Novak, I'd rather keep him.
Right.
That's kind of where I'm at with it. But if a team is willing to overpay, then you trade him. So I like where you have him there under the right circumstances.
Yeah.
But I don't want to just I'm not like desperate to move on from Tommy Novak.
Absolutely not. And then talking about Ryan O'Reilly, as we talked about, I think I'm directly with Chad right there. I play both sides of the fence with O'Reilly's. When you just look at it from a pure team tactical standpoint, of course it makes sense to trade him. But again, he's been loyal, and he's contributed a lot. And Barry Trotz coming out and saying that treating him like he's on a no clause. Again, I get it both sides either way. So unless you can get a good because again, O'Reilly's not right at the end of his deal either. So if you can get a worthy return, and it's a place where O'Reilly's going to be okay with you doing it, then I say so. But you gotta find a fine line with a guy like Ryan O'Reilly.
Mm-hmm.
So
all right, and then your next one is don't feel strongly either way. You got
these are your kind of your fourth line grinders right here: McCarron, Smith, Jankowski. I don't think all of them would be traded. And again, they're not really difference makers. If they happen, okay, cool. Same time though, if they're going to be here, that's fine too. Again,
and what are we getting in return for any of those guys anyway?
And also, if you think about it too, it's like of course we want this team to embrace the youth, give these guys a shot, all that true. But you still need some veterans on your teams here and there. You need guys that can take the slack off these young guys too. Even if they're just rotational guys in the lineup, not even playing every night too. Just sometimes to give these young guys a little bit of a rest. Again, you can't again. You got the spread team has to get younger, of course, but you can't just turn it around with 21, 23 year olds.
And like you always say, you can't go full scorched earth.
Right. Yeah. No. That's so. Guys like again, even if they're just fourth line rotational guys, they're still going to serve their purpose.
looking at the contract situations of these guys you're looking at, Michael McCarron he's $900,000 a year, and he's got one more year left, and then he's an unrestricted free agent. So he probably sticks around. Same idea with Jankowski, who is actually on injured reserve right now, but Jankowski is also signed for one more year after this.
I think all these guys have one year for this.
At $800,000. And then Cole Smith, as you just said, Max, one more year left as well at $1 million. So they're all really, really cheap players.
Yeah.
Like they're not costing you hardly anything.
Okay. It's hardly a difference whether or not you trade these guys.
And I hate to say it, but I think it's more likely that they would get waived over getting traded.
I agree.
If you really, really wanted to move on from these guys, you would just waive them.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree.
Because you're not eating any money if you lose them, really.
No.
And someone would, I think if you waived Michael McCarron, someone would definitely claim him.
I think there's a very good chance all three of these guys could get claimed if you waived them.
They would get claimed. Somebody would take a flyer on them.
But again, if nothing else, I'm okay to keep these guys if just for rotational depth in the line.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have, like you said, you've got to have some depth guys. You can't just go full on AHL starting these guys
lineup. Will need, as much as we as fans sometimes roll our eyes, these young guys will need a night off from time to time. And that's the purpose that guys like your Smith, McCarron, Jankowski serve.
And to be quite honest, there's already plenty of room as we sit right now when it comes to the younger players playing.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at all the guys who are making their NHL debuts this year. Some of that's been because of injuries, but I'm just saying, like, the room's there. And once Nyquist is out of the picture, it's going to free up more space. LaRue missed the game against Buffalo.
Yeah, he's day to day.
You got 2 weeks off, so you're expecting a pretty healthy roster.
Yeah.
In 2 weeks, and it's gonna. I'm really interested to see what the lineup looks like on February 22nd, the first game out of. And Max, real quick, and we're gonna wrap this thing up. It is an absolute gauntlet for the Predators coming out of the break. Have you seen it?
Yeah, you got Colorado, New Jersey, Florida, and Winnipeg.
My Lord.
I'm going to be at 2 of those games.
I mean, that is insane to come back out of the break like that. I mean, I know that we've already pretty much decided to pack it in on this season. It's not like we're going into a make or break stretch where we're like, oh my God, this stretch is going to make or break us. No, we know where we're at now. But that is a brutal way to come out.
Watch this team win 3 of those 4 games. Just watch.
And they're all at home.
Yeah.
You get Colorado, New Jersey, Florida, and Winnipeg.
Then you have a back-to-back in New York.
Back-to-back in New York. Wow. I mean, yeah. So I really am. I can't wait to see what that lineup looks like, especially if the whole team is healthy at that point. No one's on injured reserve anymore. Yeah. It's going to be telling. It's going to tell us a lot about what this team is thinking based on how they start that lineup. Yeah. So, all right. Fun stuff. I hope everyone enjoys the 4 Nations break. The action starts on Wednesday. You got Canada, United States, Sweden, and Finland. You've got the Preds representatives, Nyquist, Forsberg on Sweden, and UC Saros protecting the pipes for Finland. Yep. So going to be a lot of fun to watch that. I can't wait to watch it, see how it goes. I want to see what the ratings look like for it. It's a good opportunity for the NHL. I think it's a great idea. It's cool. It's a cool idea. It's to replace the All-Star game for a year. So we'll see how it goes. But until then, our next episode, we will do plenty of 4 Nations face-off reaction. So stay tuned for that. Also, I've got a guest lined up later this week that I'll tell you more about on the podcast page, but we will be putting that on the YouTube page. We've got a good guest joining the show later this week. So until then, everybody have an awesome week. We appreciate you joining us. Thank you for all the amazing comments from all of our friends. You make the show so much better when you guys get in on it. So appreciate you. Until then, hit subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on X at Catfish Ice. We'll see you soon. Take care, everybody.
See you guys.